At their core, most stories are basically about heroes. In his time, Bob Cooley could lay claim to being both. The son of a cop, he became a high-rolling lawyer for the mob, a fixer who spread cash to set wise guys free. Then one day, he struck a deal with the feds, and since then, he has continually risked his life to deal a crippling blow to organized crime. Tonight, in a Public Eye exclusive, our Marin details the twisted times of Bob Cooley.
This look familiar to you down here?
Oh, yeah.
Robert Cooley is back in his hometown, but there are reasons for him to be afraid here.
This is where your action was.
This was it.
It was on these streets that he blew wide open the mob's control over law and order. Bob Cooley was not just any attorney who represented organized crime. He was a fixer extraordinaire. From parking tickets to murder cases, Cooley could make them go away with an envelope of the mob's cold cash.
By your count, how many people have you bribed?
Judges over 30. I went for years without losing a case. We weren't supposed to lose our cases. We had to win everything. And again, I'm not bragging, I'm just telling you that's the way it was. I mean, I bribed judges, state's attorneys, police. I bribed a lot of people. I mean, that was just the system.
But 11 years ago, Bob Cooley turned on that system with a vengeance, going undercover for the government to break the mob's stranglehold over politics and the courts. He has never talked openly about what compelled him to turn on the mob until now, in an interview conducted in a remote and undisclosed location.
So you carried with you the full clout of the mob?
Well, certainly.
Since the days of Al Capone, the mob has pulled the strings of some of Chicago's most powerful people. Robert Cooley's boss had once been an enforcer in the Capone era, named Pat Marcy. Now he ordered the fixes, and Cooley made them happen.
Pat asked me if I had a judge that could take care of a matter, a murder case.
Cooley says there was one case, one fix, that haunted him for years. Harry, the hitman Alleman, was considered by police to be one of the mob's coldest killers. The year was 1977, and Alleman had been charged with the murder of a teamster.
And Pat basically tells me, we're going to fix the case and you're going to do it. And I was afraid to tell him no.
Because?
Well, because of, you don't tell Pat no. I wound up using somebody that had never fixed the case before, to my knowledge.
Cooley called an old friend, Judge Frank Wilson, who had an honest reputation but a weakness for alcohol.
So if you used Frank Wilson, people might not smell a fix.
That was the way I felt, and he obviously, felt the same way.
But there were problems, big ones. The state had 2 eyewitnesses who testified that Alleman was the hitman. Wilson, who was both judge and jury in the trial, began to worry. He wanted out.
I made that clear to him that once we got in, we were in. I mean, if this judge finds him guilty, I've got a very serious problem.
What is your serious problem if this judge finds him guilty? I'm
certain that Harry will, and won't ever get me killed. I'm certain of that.
In the end, Cooley says he gave the judge the mob's money, $10,000, and Harry Alleman, the hitman, walked out of court a free man. The public was outraged, and Judge Frank Wilson was ruined.
He never recovered from it, retired afterwards.
So the judge took the heat, but you were a hero.
To certain people, yeah. Even at this stage, I realized that they actually used me to burn somebody who was a good friend of mine.
But Cooley could not leave the life he'd chosen, a high life bought by the rackets. Big bucks and gambling with the mob's bookies.
Sometimes $1 million, close to $1 million in a weekend in actual bets. I had weeks where I won a couple $100,000. There were weeks when I lost that much.
Remarkably, Bob Cooley had been born into a family of policemen. His grandfather was a cop. His father was thought to be so honest he never got promoted beyond patrolman. As a young man, Cooley carried a badge and the family honor. Now he was betraying its very foundation.
Did your family know what you were doing?
My family knew, who I was representing and who the people were. My father wasn't happy with that.
It was only after his father's death in 1980 that Cooley says he began to try and pull away from the mob. But the mob kept pulling him back.
I was afraid to lose the life that I had, and I knew that what the consequences were once I did it.
Cooley knew that the mob's revenge is cold, calculating, and deadly, and he remembered the way others had died.
Little Tony Borsellino.
What happened to him?
They whacked him.
Why?
I have no idea. They just whacked him one day.
Butch Petroselli.
They took a blowtorch to him. Sam Iannarino, they shotgunned him.
Cooley says the final break came in 1986 when the mob called once again. A Chicago policewoman had been brutally beaten, and Cooley was being ordered to fix the case and free the accused. He didn't want the case and warned his boss, Pat Marcy, that the police would be watching closely. Marcy, he says, replied,
"Who would dare with us?" Words to that effect. I just looked at him and I said to myself, somebody will.
and somebody did. Weeks later, Robert Cooley walked into the federal building and the U.S. Attorney's office. Scott Mendeloff was the deputy chief of special prosecutions.
Well, the government knew who he was in the sense that they knew he was an attorney, but he was not under investigation at the time. The government didn't have a case on him.
But Cooley could give the government a case it had always wanted. For 3 years, Cooley secretly recorded the bribes of judges, the corrupt acts of lawyers, the buying and selling of legislation by politicians, and the extortion, gambling, and murderous acts of mobsters. One by one, they went to court. And because of Cooley's testimony, one by one, they went to prison. 3 judges, a state senator, an alderman, lawyers, a court clerk, businessmen, and mobsters.
So what did make Bob Cooley decide to cooperate?
My impression was that Bob felt that he had let his father down by the life that he had chosen and wanted to rectify that.
How dangerous was it to do what he did?
Extraordinarily dangerous.
I never expected to survive.
Why not?
I just never imagined I would. I felt that eventually they're going to get suspicious of me and something will probably happen to me.
But Cooley lived to tell his tale, and this fall he was on the witness stand again, this time with tears in his eyes as he spoke of his old friend Frank Wilson, the judge who took a bribe and set a hit man free.
Do you remember when you heard that he had killed himself?
I remember, yeah.
And what did you think? Did you think I did it?
I don't know what I thought. No, I felt bad. I mean, I felt very bad. I don't want to think about that. I can't do anything about that, so I just hope it wasn't me.
And remember Harry the Hitman Alleman? It took 20 years, but last month, because of Bob Cooley's testimony, Harry the Hitman Alleman was finally found guilty of murder. It's a case that's currently making U.S. legal history because for the first time ever in this country, the constitutionally protected provision against double jeopardy didn't apply. The court ruled that because the judge had been bribed the first time around, double jeopardy went out the window. Harry Alleman will be sentenced next week. The Alleman case may mark the end of Cooley's work for the government, but then again, it may not. Cooley has more secrets to tell, specifically about a current Chicago alderman and cases Cooley says the alderman tried to fix.
Murder cases.
He's still in danger. The kind of blow that he led, that he helped strike against the mafia is one that many people will never forget, never forgive. And he has to live the rest of his life looking behind his shoulder.
Bob Cooley now lives far from Chicago, moving at least a dozen times by his count in order to keep his whereabouts unknown.
Nobody knows who I am. When I shop, I use coupons.
Are you a sympathetic character?
I don't think so. Why would I be sympathetic? I've done what I wanted to do. And I just felt that, I've got to undo it. And I think I did undo it. I think I paid my penance in full.
Carol, Bob Cooley never officially applied for the Witness Protection Program. Why not?
He doesn't really describe his circumstances, but he's a very independent person. He was not under investigation. The government didn't really know who he was or what he did. So he was found guilty of no crime. He had demonstrated he resolved his gambling debts. He showed him a tape with the mobster saying, you don't have to pay that. So the fact of the matter is he has been his own man through this.
Does he have family?
He does indeed. He has a large family in Chicago, a family of lawyers, former policemen, a priest.
Just curious, Pat Marcy, the mobster he worked for, where is he today?
Pat Marcy did get indicted. He died during trial.
Carol, thanks so very much. Appreciate it.
Brian.
When we come back, the first primetime interview with the doctor who earlier today delivered the McCoy septuplets. Stay with us.